Hello everyone! Last week we started exploration into the history and story behind the different battlegrounds, trying to find the answer as to why do we fight. We ended it with Wintergrasp, and there are more battles that took place in Northrend. But first, let's talk about the very first of them. Let's talk about Warsong Gulch. The gleaming purple and emerald forest of Ashenvale are more than just pleasant woodland. To the Warsong orcs, who name themselves Outriders, they're a prize cache of building planks. To the Night Elves Silverwing Sentinels, they're called home, where the turned soil and tree stumps surrounding Horde lumber mills start to encroach on Ashenvale's timberlands. These two factions clash. Each group recruits heroes from far and wide. The Horde to batter back the defenders and clear the forest, and the Alliance to shatter the aggressors and stop the disappearance of the precious land. Capturing flags, it might seem like an unorthodox method of settling this dispute, but it's symbolic and hardly without bloodshed. Whoever holds the defeated foe's banner will show all who look upon the forest that their claim is the strongest and dictate the future of one of the most important ancestral lands of the Kaldori. Like I said, one of the first battlegrounds to be added, that is Warsong Gulch. Here we see that the Horde is in need of resources. Part of the reason why Thrall had chosen their lands to settle in is because it enabled his people to atone for the harm that they had done. It's a dry, harsh land which breeds tough and strong people. But all the same, they still needed resources to continue on living. So it was that they encroached further into elven lands, something that the Kaldori, they can't really appreciate. They had enough trouble with a demon blood infused Gromash chopping down their trees. The Horde was simply not welcome, and that is the symbolic battle that plays out within Warsong Gulch. That's not to say that the Alliance and Horde haven't tried to come to an agreement about the resources. There was the meeting at Faramore in which Thrall and Varian, they actually got along with one another, but that meeting got interrupted by Corona half Orcan, which quickly had them fighting again. At the end of the Siege of Orgrimmar, where the Alliance and Horde got together to kick Garrosh out of the Mantle of Warchief, we see that peace might actually be an option. Tirana and Varian had spoken at length about the price of peace before his decisions here today. She is willing to allow the Horde the use of Azara's lumber if they abandon Ashenvale for good. Knowing the way that goblins chew through resources, we'll see how long that will sustain them. She supports this peace, but she does not share the High King's confidence. If the Horde breaks the treaty to engage them again, her people will be ready. And then let's talk about Northrend, where more battles took place. The world that houses our adventures, that was shaped and formed by the Titans and their Titan Keepers. They've left a mark all over, including frozen Northrend, though often their presence is ebbed in the ground, as in mysterious Ulduar. Yet on a narrow island chain, a sliver of Titan handiwork is out in the open. As Horde and Alliance vanguards began to course over the continent of Northrend during Wrath of the Lich King, the mystics awoke to dizzying visions of an isle and a gleaming power behind the heights of stone. To the south of Dragonblight lies the resting place of a legendary Titan artifact, known by the Alliance and the Horde to possess critical information regarding the Titans and their methods. Strand of the Ancients, a now removed battleground, it was a 15 versus 15 match, where each side takes a turn attacking and defending this Titan artifact at the southern tip of the island. Not much to be said about this battleground. We're storming the beach or trying to defend this mighty artifact connected to the Titans. What is kinda cool is that you can see a piece of the path of the Titans on the island. This is a massive road that runs from Ulduar all the way south through Storm Peaks, Dragonblight, until it ends into the sea. Considering that the Sundering split the land apart, it's not hard to imagine that the Strand of the Ancients was once part of Northrend, once part of this road. Perhaps its final destination, perhaps it connected with more of the Keeper's vaults and creations. Who knows? Another battle that was around the time when Tyrion Fordring held a little tournament to see who was ready and worthy to join their assault upon Icecrown Citadel. Just offshore of the immense Icecrown Glacier, crawling with frozen dead and coated in ice cracking under the wheels of invading siege engines, lies an oil-rich island. Known as the Isle of Conquest, this rocky battleground's proximity to Icecrown, it makes it a highly prized base in the war against the Lich King. As a large-scale battleground, each side attempts to wrest control of the siege factory, docks or hangar in order to secure access to the enemy stronghold and defeat its general. That's how victory is earned, by either depleting the enemy's resources or by defeating the general. The elite amongst the Horde and Alliance armies, the Korkron Guard and the 7th Legion, they've arrived on the island in force and they put down their roots. Smiths and machinists have begun their work, turning this nameless landmass natural resources into smoke and steel. highly secure keeps, exited only through mage portals. It allowed the generals of each faction to issue commands to the armies without leaving the safety of the fortresses. Halford Wormbane is the Alliance General, one that should look very familiar to you if you're still playing Battle for Azeroth. He is the leader of the 7th Legion. They're some of the best veterans that the Alliance has to offer, present in nearly every major offensive and military engagement that the Alliance has ever done. They're the counterpart to the Horde's Kor'kron. On the Horde side, it's Overlord Agmar that leads the troops, and mainly played a part in the story during Wrath of the Lich King. And Agmar's hammer in Dragonblight, he leads the Kor'kron, their elite fighting force, and personal bodyguard of the War Chief. He has heroes of the Horde recruit the Tonka, show up for battle at the Wrathgate, and of course push further with the campaign against the Lich King. Here on the Isle, both factions have developed devastating weapons to drive each other from their strategic location. Day and night, the ground trembles under lumbering siege vehicles, while monstrous airships pummel enemy positions with fiery cannons. The bloody conflict spreads to every corner of the island as new heroes arrive to aid their factions. A chance to prove your might, to crush your enemies, to make a difference. A chance for endless glory and conquest. Will you seize it?
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Well, there was definitely one very interested in conquest and glory. That would be the new War Chief of the Horde, Garrosh Hellscream. The Cataclysm brought some major change to the world. Thrall left the Horde and he appointed Garrosh to lead the people. Magni Bronzebeard was turned into a crystal. Sylvanas tried to kill herself and made a bargain with the Valkyr. And the Gilnean wall was destroyed. Isolatism had long shaped the nation of Gilneas, once part of the Alliance of Lordaeron. The enormous Greymane Wall once protected them from a plague of undeath. Now that wall has fallen. The citizens who huddle behind it, they're forced to confront that particular fear. And Garrosh Hellscream and the Horde have set their eyes on the kingdom of Gilneas. The rotting Forsaken seethe to spread the contagion throughout the whole region of Lordaeron, claiming it as their own, and they see the opportunity within Gilneas' rubble. Fortunately for the people of Gilneas, their own particular curse, it transformed them into the bestial wolf-human hybrids. They've learned to control their Worgen curse and been accepted back into the Alliance. Now, the Horde will support their undead allies' attempts to seize resources from a damaged nation, while the Alliance, they come to the aid of a tainted people seeking new lives. Regardless of the victor, monsters will rule over the ruins. Wow, Blizzard, that's a bit harsh in your description. So the Battle of Gilneas, a continuation over the war, was started by Garrosh and then taken over by Sylvanas. She had no moral dilemma, no honor to uphold while fighting the Gilneans, and she was more than happy to use her plague. This then forced them to evacuate, but have now returned with allies. The outcome of this battle, it does not seem to be in favor of the Gilneans though. We've seen black dragons hang out in part of the city during the Rogue Legendary questline. After the Siege of Orgrimmar, there were plans made by Varian to investigating cleansing the plague, so that they can rebuild and actually contain Sylvanas. Not much was done with that. Instead, we saw the Banshee Queen team up with Varian on the Broken Shore. Then, in the novel Before the Storm, which takes place just before Battle for Azeroth, Gilneas is described as there being nothing left of the once great realm but ruins, shades, and sorrow. It is home to the Forsaken. The destruction of the Greymane Wall was but a small example of the destruction found all across the world as Deathwing broke out and he made ready to bring about the Hour of Twilight, the moment in which the old gods would break out of the prisons and rule the world once more. He was not alone on this plan. Part of Team Old God was the Twilight Hammer cult. This cult, or clan as it once was, that is led by the Ogre Cho'Gall. Within the Twilight Highlands, they've taken over Grim Batol and set up base within the Bastion of Twilight. Both the Horde and the Alliance are trying to fight against these forces, with the Twin Peaks being a strategic choke point crucial to their assaults on the Twilight Hammer cult and the forces of Deathwing. These craggy mountains are so vital to the war effort that the Dragonmaw clan of orcs and the Wildhammer dwarfs that remain locked in a seemingly endless battle to this day, each hoping to claim definitive ownership of the peaks. It might seem odd to fight each other while going after the same goal, but that's nothing new really. The Dragonmaw and the Wildhammer, they face each other as far back as the first Horde invasion, where the orcs had enslaved the Red Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and forced her flight to fight for the Horde. Dominance over the sky was hard earned though, as the Wildhammer dwarves with their griffins and stormhammers, they put up quite the fight. As a 10 versus 10 capture the flag battleground, the first faction to capture 3 flags is victorious. Lend your strength as both factions struggle to take control of this critical high ground. And after the Cataclysm, A land previously covered by mist was revealed, Pandaria, full of people, resources, and new locations to conquer. The Alliance and Horde brought their conflicts and their problems to the peaceful Pandaren. These creatures had learned to control their emotions, as the land itself was infected by the old gods with something called the Sha. It feeds on negative emotions, plenty to go around as we clash our weapons with one another. While War Chief Garrosh, he has his troops search far and wide for more power to be added to the hordes. During the lost days of ancient Pandaria, the ruling Mogu built temples, not unlike themselves, immense in size, vast in scope, and steeped in forces as old as the ground beneath their feet. Stony statues of the Mogu still glare down from their long vacant temples, and echoes of their supremacy persist to the present day. Inside the Ottoman temple of Kop Mogu, a vicious melee has erupted over artifacts that the Mogu left behind. Treasures older than the bloodlines of human kings and the clans of orcs. Orbs of power that have bathed in the energies of Pandaria for ages. The Mogu, they're creatures created by the Keepers, but the Keepara fell silent, which caused the Mogu to carve out their own path, their own idea of serving their creators. Pandaria was enslaved to their will, which gave rise to a mighty empire, but also caused massive amounts of suffering. Now we fight over the powers left behind by these Mogu. Will their might be added to the Horde or the Alliance?
For the Alliance!
So the Mogu's reign, it eventually ended when their slaves found the strength to rise up and overthrow their masters. The verdant Valley of the Four Winds had long enriched the continent of Pandaria with bountiful fruits, fields of grain, grandiose vegetables, and gold. The land is an amazing place to grow and harvest, mainly so because the magical waters from the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, it flows down here. This water had the power to transform murlocs into the Jinyu. No wonder that it adds power to the harvest. Now Deepwind Gorge, it dips below even a valley's normal depth, and it's here that the Pandaren have turned the earth, exposing rich veins of gold. Ever since they freed themselves from the tyrannical Mogu, the inhabitants of the valley have made careful, cautious use of these riches, taking only what they need and paying attention to the limits of their land. But the Alliance and Horde have their own plans for the gleaming metals of the gorge, amidst the quarry filled with dislodged rocks and connected by makeshift wooden bridges. The factions continue their war for Pandaria's precious resources, walking away with as many riches as they can. But what is more important than orbs of power or gold? Diamonds, of course.
Diamonds are forever.
Stranglethorn Vale's Silvershard mines are full of the gleaming gems, and while they're pretty to look at, they're far more important for what they can buy. New blades, ballista, and battle gear for the soldiers of the Alliance and the Hordes. Neither faction wants its opposition digging up diamonds, not when the other option is to spill their enemy's blood on the rocks and make off with the loot in venture code minecarts. The venture company, that is a Goblin cartel all about making that sweet moolah, while the Alliance and Horde, they try to steal away the riches, bring it back safely to their faction. Each faction escorts minecarts filled with Silvershard diamonds, and the carts, self-propelled through Goblin engineering, they just keep on coming.
This will change everything.
During Legion, we kinda put the faction conflict to the side, and we earn a great victory over the Dark Titan Sargeras. He was imprisoned, but not before stabbing Azeroth, which caused massive damage to the world. The Titan spirit inside, it's hurting, and azurite pops up all over the surface. This powerful resource can be used for many things. You can craft amazing armor, cure any poison, but of course, it can also be turned into a powerful weapon. As hostilities between the Horde and Alliance reignite, both factions recognize Azurite's potential to turn the coming battle in their favor. Located on an island near Silphus, the Seething Shore, it challenges teams to compete for control of Azurite nodes. From either the Tempest Roar or the Sword of Dawn, Nephanos Blightcaller and Matthias Shaw, they send in heroes of their faction. Both ships have been used as a training ground for boosted characters, and both ships also drop in troops during the Battle for Stromgarde. Now some of the NPCs that we can find aboard the ships, they were also around in the last battleground that we're going to be talking about, the battleground known as Ashran. This world PvP zone, it plays out on alternate Draenor, directly after the Cataclysm. You might remember kicking Garrosh out of the Mantle of War Chief, but neither side took the kill, and Varian left us with this speech.
But some among you fought against Garrosh's tyranny. For that, I am willing to end this bloodshed. But know this. If your horde fails to uphold honor as Garrosh did, we will end you.
Somewhat of a treaty between the Alliance and the Horde as they ventured through the Dark Portal to take on the Iron Horde. Yet, as so often happens within Warcraft, the factions, they found the reasons to fight again. Ashran is an island east of the Nan Jungle and the resting place of an ancient ogre civilization known as the Ashmal. The ogres had quite a presence on Draenor in the days of old. They built themselves a massive empire, but war and conflict with mainly the orcs, it saw their glory days reduced to rubble. Now the reason for the conflict in Ashran, that would be an artifact, potentially having its origin with the Titans. That's not entirely impossible either, considering how the Titan Agrimar once upon a time helped the world find balance, indirectly created ogres and the orcs to begin with. Either way, the Alliance seek this artifact under the guidance of Harrison Jones and the Explorers League, while the Horde, they have their reliquary with Belloc Brightblade. For some reason, the factions aren't exactly talking with one another, despite being shown to work together on other parts of Draenor. The Horde, they fear what the Alliance might do with such a powerful weapon. They fear that if they do find the artifact, they'll end up using it against the Horde. And if the Horde keeps on attacking the Alliance soldiers the way that they have been doing, they may just drive them to it, a Storm Shield Guard tells us. On the other side, a Warspear Grunt, he doesn't care about some old dusty relics. All he cares about is that they get to bring the battle to the humans again. They've been itching for a proper fight and have come here to bash some Alliance heads in. And doesn't that summarize the field of battle perfectly? No matter the reason, be it resources, lands, old hatreds, no matter what, at the end of the day, we're still bashing each other's heads in for fame, loot, and glory.
To ask why we fight is to ask why the leaves fall. It is in their nature. Perhaps there is a better question. For my kind, the true question is, what is worth fighting for?
That, however, wraps up covering the backgrounds of why do we fight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed researching the reasons behind the Battlegrounds. As always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!